The Minnesota Vikings have brought joy and misery to the Vikings fans for many years. At the Skol Purple Podcast, we just want to see the Vikings party with the Lombardi. Join us for analysis, interviews, laughs, and much more. It's the podcast by Vikings fans for Vikings fans. The Skol Purple Podcast starts now. Here's your host, Carson Schubert.
Welcome into the Skol Purple Podcast. Glad you're able to join us as we are now joined by Kevin Brown. And Kevin is on Twitter at Kevin Brown NFL. Kevin has been following and covering the Vikings for a long time, and it's always good to get his opinion this time of year. As Kevin, you're a big NFL draft guy, and you love kind of doing the study on players as well. So thanks for joining us again, Kevin.
You bet. Pleasure to be with you again.
So Kevin is much more into this time of year, I think, maybe than the regular season. But we're glad that we're glad to have your perspective here, Kevin, because you've been studying players and player profiles, doing that kind of thing for a long time. So you have an idea of what you're looking for when it is related to the NFL draft and some of these players.
Yeah, I'm still learning, the new regime,
right.
It's still a little bit of a mystery what their defensive scheme is. It was like that last year and it figures to change again. Just trying to see Kwesi move from, transitioning from what he inherited to what he's trying to build for himself. So I'm excited to just continue learning, about the process. And he's very much a cutting edge, guy. He's not an old school scout. So it's fun to just keep learning. So.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all doing. I mean, I think especially, you mentioned with Rick Spielman no longer being the GM, you kind of maybe were able to see his tendencies a little bit. And now it's a new regime where it's like, what might they do here? And obviously there's kind of a transition that's been going on too, with some of the older players leaving and now some of the newer players coming in, transition time for the Minnesota Vikings. So, absolutely. Well, before we get into any NFL draft stuff, Kevin, we got some news to talk about here this offseason. So the Minnesota Vikings have been busy in free agency once again, kind of some minor – it's almost kind of like minor league free agents, if you want to use that terminology from baseball in a way. But these guys do have the potential to make the 53-man roster. Let's start with former Rams wide receiver Brandon Powell. He signed a deal with the Vikings. Of course, the Rams and Brandon Powell and Kevin O'Connell was, of course, the Rams offensive coordinator before becoming the Vikings head coach. So that relationship there and anything that Sean McVay has on Brandon Powell, I'm sure Kevin O'Connell is fully aware of that as well. And I've been seeing some interesting takes on this, Kevin, that maybe this is a signing for the Vikings as a consolation prize almost for Mecole Hardman, who was signed today as well. They didn't get him. The Jets got him before they traded Elijah Moore. And now the Vikings get Brandon Powell, who is maybe an off-brand, if you will, a diet version of Mecole Hardman, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know if I would get that excited about it. He's a guy that's played in the NFL. He can return kicks. The biggest play of his career was a punt return touchdown against the Vikings in 2021. He knows his system. So, he's legitimately, a number 5 receiver kind of guy and a punt return option. And I think, this time of year, a lot of these signings are, they're just trying to fill out their depth chart so that, they don't get influenced to, draft guys so much by position. They want a team they could field right now, regardless of what they get from the draft. And
Yeah.
I think, more than ever, I think this regime is very much looking at the totality of a player's potential career after they draft them. They're looking at what's this guy going to be at the end of his first contract. Is he going to be a guy that is good enough to be re-signed to a second contract, or what can they get from that guy while he's still under that first rookie contract? So I think they have a little bit more of a long view, and they're trying to get to a point where they can do that more freely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a depth move for sure. I mean, he could potentially be a gadget type of guy if the Vikings keep him on the roster, but it seems to me like it's kind of like a worse version, and maybe it's not worse version. Who knows? You can make the comparison to Jalen Reagor a little bit too, where they both kind of seem like they're not like going to win with their routes necessarily, but with their speed, their twitchiness, I guess. And it seems like Jalen Reagor's kind of that same mold. So does that mean that Jalen Reagor's got competition going into camp, or do you think it's just kind of like a depth signing? I would say, from my perspective, there's a chance he could make it, but I would say more likely than not he won't. But who knows?
Yeah, I think they have a very limited number of picks, at this point anyway, and they'll likely do something about that. But inevitably, you're not gonna get top tier guys every single pick, and you're eventually gonna come out of this, and you're gonna not have addressed a position of need. So they want a guy that they can fall back on, that could be an NFL caliber player. Powell, I think, contributes on special teams,
Yeah.
more than Reagor does. I mean, Rieger's a punt return guy. He didn't establish himself as a receiver in the passing game as far as being on the same page, and, I think Paul probably has a leg up on that, of understanding the offense and running the right routes. And like you said, like maybe some gadget type plays. I think he's a fallback to Reagor. I would think it's one or the other that ends up sticking around. And Paul's probably cheaper. So,
Yeah.
I think that's his thing. Now, if they end up, the best guy, with their first pick is a wide receiver, then, his chances probably went down.
Right.
Making the team, but that's how it goes. Like he's probably not getting re-signed by the Rams, and this was a legitimate opportunity for him that made sense. So that's, and he's had a pretty nice little career being a completely unheard of guy that's undersized and not blazing fast. And so,
yeah. Yep. I think that lays it out pretty well. Kind of an Albert Wilson signing from a year ago. Kind of a guy that can compete and bring some of that. Just competition really to the room, which
they want, every guy that's on the roster in camp. They want guys that challenge the younger guys too. Knowing how to do things the right way and set that kind of example. And, because of this guy's experience and familiarity, he's going to do that, and he's going to be competitive for these young guys that, might not realize what it takes to be a professional at this level. So,
Yep. There you have it. That is a little bit on wide receiver Brandon Powell from the Rams. Again, not much in terms of production in his career other than special teams, but again, a depth type of signing by the Vikings. Let's move on to the other free agent linebacker that was signed as we record this today on Wednesday. That happened today, and that was former Chargers linebacker Troy Reeder. And This is kind of a similar situation, I'd say, Kevin, kind of a depth signing, but I would say I think this could very well be a guy that could make the roster more so than
Yeah, I
Brandon
think
Powell.
he's more of a challenge to guys they already have. Like, I mean, he's a legitimate challenge to say a Troy Dye making the team. He's been a starter, um, in a Super Bowl caliber team. He's he's a pretty decent player. So,
Yeah.
if he has a good camp and Jordan Hicks doesn't, he could end up beating him out even. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jordan Hicks making that cut a little bit with his paycheck. I think that maybe. I guess I don't know how much dead money, but I would guess that keeps him. But
yeah.
I think Troy Dye could very well be gone. I mean, I know, was it Brian Flores or Kevin O'Connell? Maybe it was even Kwesi that mentioned Troy Dye in their press conference, which I thought was interesting. But that's really the only three linebackers, I think, unless I'm mistaken, on the roster, right?
O'Connell actually mentioned William Quenku too.
Oh, yeah, that's
which
right.
I thought was interesting, who, was originally a tryout guy, and then they signed him, and then he made the practice squad, and then he got up and he played special teams and, eventually got some reps on defense. And I mean, to me, he has more upside than Troy Dye does, mainly because I think we've seen Dye get a lot of opportunities, and I think we kind of know what the ceiling is there. And I think, adding Reiner just to me says they are not going to invest a high pick in a linebacker. It just kind of takes that.
Well,
position.
And there's not really, unless you feel differently, there's not really a linebacker that I would say is a, can't miss prospect in the first round.
Right. There's not, to me, there isn't a linebacker that at 23, you'd say, oh, that's a great pick. I mean, I think there's guys in a trade down scenario or something like that, but I just think it takes that off the table for them needing to.
And
another
thing that it does too, Kevin, and I think this team is doing a good job of, is adding depth, and it's also allowing them not to be pigeonholed into making a selection that they maybe don't want to make in the first round. Like, they don't have to take a cornerback now because they signed Byron Murphy. Obviously, they still need cornerback depth. It's a very deep cornerback class by many accounts. So then you go into saying, okay, you don't need a corner in the first round. Now you don't need a linebacker in the first round. You don't really need a running back in the first round because you've re-signed Alexander Madison. You got Ty Chandler, you got Kene Nwangwu, and obviously Dalvin Cook still here for the moment. So I think,
and similar,
and then the depth on the defensive line too, that they've accumulated.
Bringing back, signing Lowry, very underrated thing. Losing Tomlinson kind of left a hole there. They signed Lowry, and they bring back Bullard too. So, okay, these are guys you can line up and play with. In the base defense, these guys can play. You don't have to fill that, with a draft pick unless somebody really good falls into your lap. So,
right. Well, and that brings us to Jonathan Bullard. As you mentioned, the Vikings were able to re-sign him, and I kind of thought maybe with Dean Lowry coming in, and you compare that, and you bring that in with Kairos Tonga in there as well, and they still have some of the other guys on the outside as well. But I think, again, the Vikings have done a really good job here of not pigeonholing themselves into having to take a defensive lineman, whether it's an interior defensive lineman or pass rusher type of defensive lineman, edge rusher. with that first pick, even though I really love Kalijah Cansey. I don't know how I will talk about that later, but on your thoughts. But if he fell to 23 somehow, which I don't think will happen, but if it does, I would love that pick. But now you don't have to go and trade up to get that kind of guy because you do have some depth here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Bullard is solid in a very defined role. There's not much upside there beyond what we've already seen from him, but he can be a first down, second down guy that is in the rotation there. Unselfish player, takes on, occupies blocks, holds the fort, can set the edge. Not going to give you much pass rush. And the financial commitment is nothing. He probably doesn't even, he's not even going to register on, any cap ramifications. So he's a cheap solution. So.
Yep.
Yeah. And I thought when they signed Lowry, that just meant he would be gone. But the fact that they're bringing back some of these guys, just, to me, this is part of what I feel like I'm learning from how they're doing this.
Yeah.
Is, I think people thought they would clean house more aggressively. They really have gone the other way. Like they've been almost more loyal to the established guys than I think people expected. And
or at least loyal to the guys they brought in last year.
Yeah. And I mean, they made the tough call on Kendricks and Thielen, but given the way those contracts were structured, it was a glaringly obvious thing you had to do.
Something had to happen. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Well, speaking of rewarding longtime Vikings, they did reward C.J. Ham, the Hammer, Sandwich, whatever you want to call him, I guess. He got a 2-year extension, which by and large I think helps too. I don't know the terms of the contract extension at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that his cap hit has been lowered for this year. I think it was $3.8 million for 2023. So that's been lowered, I can almost guarantee. And that's huge because the Vikings, it seems like they're kind of nickel and diming things a little bit here, trying to look in the couch cushions for as much spare change as they could get to try and be able to go and not only just afford maybe another free agent, but also, you got to bring in a whole new draft class and you got to be able to pay them.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think it just converted some of the money that Ham was going to make to guaranteed money, and it reduced the overall, cap hit this year, and it probably doesn't assure anything beyond this year. It might incur some dead money for the Vikings, but it doesn't really give him any more money. But it guarantees what's on the table right now. So a win-win, and he's for the role he has. However many snaps that is, he's pretty good at it. He's a good blocker. He's an underrated receiver, and he's good on special teams.
We need to see more fullback dives, I think, Kevin.
I don't know if we do.
Probably won't in Kevin O'Connell's offense, but maybe on those 3rd and 4th and shorts, maybe we need to see more fullback dives. I don't know.
Well, that could be. So.
It seems like, and I hope that the Vikings really think about this long and hard, but it seems like we talked about this at length multiple times on the Fan Express line after every game. It seems like every game there was at least 1 or 2 3rd and 4th and shorts where they're throwing the ball 15, 20 or more yards down the field. And I get you're trying to stretch the defense a little bit and, trying to catch them off guard, but eventually, don't you just have to line up and play and let your offensive line do the work? But I
think that's part of what some of these signings this year indicate is I think what O'Connell and Kwesi have, assessed is we can't run the ball when we have to run the ball. And, so they signed a tight end, kind of
Yep.
surprising, known for his proficiency as a blocker. And they re-signed Ben Ellefson, also known for blocking. And now they're bringing back Ham. They want to be able to run the ball in key situations. They want to get better at that. So, and Madison is maybe better in that situation than even Cook. So I think they want more balance when
Yep.
they need to, when they need to pick up a yard. So
Yeah. No, and I think CJ Ham, I think everybody knows how good of a clubhouse guy he is, locker room guy. And somebody mentioned this not too long ago. There's only so many guys you can cut from a team. On Madden, it's very easy for me to say, okay, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. But eventually, if you cut too many guys in the real world, you're going to affect team chemistry, and that's not going to be a good
and
thing.
I mean they built a really positive culture, and that takes a hit when you have to let go of guys like Kendricks and Thielen. So if you just keep doing that, then all the stuff you say about how important the people are and the culture are, but then you really don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt, and you just clean house, it kind of backfires on you. So, Ham was probably overpaid at 3.8 million. He's probably not overpaid now. So, and he still brings that veteran presence to the team. So, if somebody beats him out, then that's one thing. But they didn't just purge him, to save a ball. And that's what they're doing. I mean, getting Harrison Smith to come back, on a dramatically lower contract, and I don't know, that I think that goes a long way in the long run on this culture front for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we got to get into a rumor here that surfaced. Jeremy Fowler speculatively reporting that the Minnesota Vikings maybe are interested in bringing in Lamar Jackson to the organization. Obviously, things in Baltimore not going great with contract talks, and that was floated out by Jeremy Fowler. I'm not a huge fan of it, not because Lamar's not talented, because I do think he's a very talented player, and from that perspective, I would love it. Where I would not love it, Kevin, is the injury history. And it seems like he has been unavailable most of the time the last couple of years. And I don't care how talented you are. If you're not available, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And that's kind of the case for me with Lamar Jackson. And, I think the injury history, just based on the last couple of years, it's only going to get worse, I would think, as you get older, right? And especially with his playing style, there's chances of that continuing in the future, I think, too.
Yeah. My take on that, I mean, at first I thought it was ridiculous, but Jeremy Fowler isn't just making stuff up. It's based on, connections and stuff like that. So it's an informed comment.
Right.
And he just characterized it as a dark horse, team of interest. The only way it comes about is if they're interested, or somebody's interested in trading for Kirk, and you get something in return for him, and then you're basically, on some level, you're making a lateral move with Lamar Jackson, but a younger player. But then you also, he's taken up a big amount of your cap space, so you aren't you aren't shifting to a 5-year rookie contract. You're just transitioning from one top tier quarterback salary to another. Now, and then the other thing is, he doesn't particularly seem like a fit to me for O'Connell's. The most important characteristic is accuracy. I'm not saying that Lamar isn't an accurate passer. And in a, whatever their system is, he probably is more than adequate at making all the throws. But to totally leverage a guy like that, you kind of want him to have the freedom to take off and run and make big plays.
Yep.
I just haven't seen that as part of the MO of, the O'Connell scheme and system going back to the, the Rams and the Shanahan tree and the McVay tree and all that stuff. So it doesn't make total sense to me, but if some of these trade chips are in play, like, if somebody's interested in Kirk or Dalvin or Daniil Hunter or Zadarius Smith or something, well, then, it's a blockbuster,
Yeah, send Zadarius back to the Ravens where he was supposed to go.
And that, and that probably, that wouldn't surprise me at all, because he'd be a good fit there. And, they like him and are familiar with him and, would appreciate his value and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a lot of components come together for this to really be a reality.
Yeah. And I think systematically, I think Kevin O'Connell, if he got a player like Lamar Jackson, I always say, Kevin, you always want to fit your scheme to what your players do best. And I mean, you can run whatever, obviously Kevin O'Connell seems like he's more comfortable in a West Coast system type of offense, or kind of in that Sean McVay mold, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, obviously Lamar's maybe not, not that he wouldn't be good in it or comfortable in it, but that doesn't maximize his skill set.
And O'Connell, inevitably, he would adapt his system.
Right.
To leverage that. I don't think he's foolish and stubborn about it.
No, exactly. That's kind of what I was going to make the point of.
They wouldn't make the move for a guy like that without a plan for how to tap into that, and whatever changes that would make to the system. I don't think they would make the move if they weren't comfortable with doing that.
Yeah. Very good. Well, that's our thoughts on Lamar Jackson to the Vikings. One last one before we get into the draft stuff. Adam Thielen, we didn't get to talk about that. Literally, the news broke right after we recorded our last episode. But Adam Thielen, a 3-year deal to the Panthers. Look, I'm happy for Adam. I think the drama with his wife and some of the things he was saying in the media, I think he needs to, it doesn't seem, and I didn't look at his thank you or whatever to the Vikings, but it just kind of seemed like he was more frustrated than thankful, and I think he should have been thankful more so than frustrated for his time in Minnesota. And I think there will come a time when he is more thankful for that, but I just kind of was rubbed the wrong way just by the way he was going about things, especially his wife, obviously, too. And I know he doesn't control his wife, but, or at least I don't think so. But, yeah, I just was rubbed the wrong way by that, Kevin. But again, good for him. I hope he does well with the Panthers. Obviously, their number one wide receiver at the moment. We'll see if that continues after the draft and all that, but
I think
the Panthers.
I think the rub is, he's on the verge of losing something. He's on the verge of losing his skills,
right?
And I think he believes deep in his heart that it was injuries that slowed him down, and that his body is, when healthy, can still do everything it could ever do. But the reality is, with the Vikings, you're not going to proactively try to create opportunities for Adam Thielen when you've got Justin Jefferson. And that's just a reality. So, whatever he said or whatever his wife says about his role and stuff, you gotta balance that with the reality of, you're not going to take away from Justin Jefferson to get him more touches and stuff like that. And I mean, I think he knows that. I think he realizes that. And I think he was just confident that he would get another contract from somebody and he could find a situation where he would be needed more. And I think Carolina is a really perfect fit for that. It's a healthy culture that he's going to, and they're going to have a rookie quarterback running the show with talent, and I think he's going to be the leader of that wide receiver room there. And I wish him all the best. But he's not the first guy that had a long career as a Viking that finished it out with someone else. So
right,
it just happens. To me, no hard feelings, and good for him.
Yeah.
I only wish that he had played out his contract and we'd get a comp pick for it. But
yeah, right.
But it is what it is, So.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Vikings fans, I interrupt this episode to tell you about our great sponsor through the Pigskin Podcast Network, DraftKings. The biggest tournament in college basketball is underway, and the action is just getting started on DraftKings Sportsbook, one of the top-rated sportsbook apps in America. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Plus, combine multiple bets for a shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings will be featuring parlays and odds boosts all tournament long, so be sure to check the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day to see what they have in store. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with code TPPN. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. Now, back to the show. So we got Kevin Brown's big board here, top 50 for the NFL draft. That'll be coming up at the end of April. And Kevin, I just kind of want to throw it to you at this moment to kind of talk a little bit about some of the key players. I don't want you to necessarily go through all 50, but
right,
some of the players that stick out to you as being really impact players potentially at the NFL level.
Yeah. So the main thing I want to just clarify is, the grade scale to the far right column of each player. To me, I have it broken down like basically those guys are in tiers. And what I mean by that is, if I've got 4 guys at a 6.9, they conceivably could be in any numerical order you want there. And, then there's this next tier of the 6.5 guys, and then the rest they're all at 6.4. And, so the guy at 19 isn't necessarily any more realistic or likely than the guy at 50. It's going to vary so much by team, scheme, whether the guy's a fit, any number of things. So it really, I'm more firm about sort of the tiers of these players. And, so what I'm saying is, like, to me, there's really like 18, surefire first round caliber guys in this year's draft. And, the order could change almost daily, based on new information or, what team is picking. So when I say I have Bijan Robinson 1 and Jalen Carter 2, that's based on like over the life of a rookie contract. I just think those guys are elite talents. It doesn't take into account all kinds of circumstances. It's just, I wouldn't want to pass on those guys and take someone, multiple tiers lower ahead of them, regardless of position. So that's kind of, I guess, my starting point on that. And then I put a little check mark by some of the guys that, to me, we can maybe talk about in the context of the Vikings. So I guess we'll just kind of go down the list and maybe talk about some of those guys. First one at 12 would be Nolan Smith, edge defender from Georgia. To me, he feels like the edge defender version of Lewis Cine for the Vikings. Tested out of the park, ran a 4.39 and just really lit it up at the combine. Good character, good work ethic, speed off the edge. Some have just see him as, an elite edge rush guy, a speed rush guy, and, a high ceiling beyond, what he was in college when he was surrounded by a lot of good players at every position. Next up would be, another edge guy, Miles Murphy. And, he's a prototype size speed guy, edge guy, maybe not as dominant at the college level as his talent would indicate. But I would think a great fit for someone like Brian Flores to get his hands on. And then next up, I think today's Ohio State Pro Day really solidified Jackson Smith and Jigba as, kind of hands down the top receiver as far as being pro ready. And for a team like the Vikings, who, just let Thielen go, he's a guy that, steps right in from day one and just takes over. Can play in the slot, can play outside, can just really be a high volume, guy and a compliment, like what Kirk needs, when everybody's gonna double, triple up Jefferson, is they need a guy that can get open one-on-one. Well, Jackson Smith and Jigba would totally fit the bill.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that fit. I mean, I like Nolan Smith and especially Nolan Smith, but Miles Murphy too. But I just want the Vikings to take another Ohio State receiver. Really, is their only other Ohio State receiver, at least one that's been good, Chris Carter.
Yeah.
It seems that way. So I know I've clamored for other Ohio State receivers in the past. I wasn't as high on Garrett Wilson, but I loved Chris Olave last year.
Yep. And I loved Garrett Wilson last year. And no, that, to me, if he's there when the Vikings pick, it's just a no-brainer to me. Run the card up there, but I don't think he's going to be. I mean, I think, he kind of came into this process. He didn't play much as a senior because of an injury, or not a senior, but this last year. And, so the big question was, where's he at? And I think he just hit it out of the park, and he's the most pro-ready guy right now. Jordan Addison is another big play receiver, just a natural. The guy he reminds me of is Anthony Carter. Was probably one of the more underrated, should be in the Ring of Honor Vikings of all time. Not really that big, but just silky smooth and just a natural. And, you see a lot of guys, when they catch the ball, it's like they almost have to gather themselves to catch it. He just doesn't break stride. He just plucks it and just keeps on motoring. And, it's almost like he's elastic, the way he just bounces off people. And, he can stretch the field. And, I think he'd be a real, he'd be a great fit for their offense, would take pressure off of Jefferson and contribute right away. So he's another guy I like as well. Then kind of zip past some of these other guys. I don't see them going tackle. So let's talk about the quarterbacks. Daniel Jeremiah mocked Hendon Hooker to the Vikings at 23 in his most recent. And, there probably isn't anybody more respected that, talks about the draft game these days than him. And, it seems like a long shot. And I understand that, he's a little older, he's 25 years old and he's coming off an ACL injury. But, to me, if I put Hendon Hooker side by side with Will Levis, and and I've done this, I've watched every single game, both guys this past season. I honestly don't know how you could possibly say that Levis is better than Hendon Hooker. Now, if you go back to the previous year with Levis, that's what all the hype is based on. But he just really regressed. And, there's inconsistency and issues that both of them need to work out. And in both cases, I think I think it's really important they don't get thrown to the wolves right away. Well, the beauty of that is the Vikings are the perfect team for that. Cousins has been durable and he's under contract, and they don't have any serious commitment beyond this year. So either one of those guys conceivably fit for the Vikings. Is it a reach, to take a guy like Hooker at 23? Well, maybe it is, but maybe it isn't. I mean, maybe a team like Tampa Bay picking at 19 would feel the same way and take him. I just think that, he eventually is going to be a quality starting quarterback. And he has all the things you look for. I mean, the character, the leadership, the arm talent, the athletic ability, the production. It's just all there. I just don't, he's older. Well, if he's 25 and he plays 5 years under his first contract and another 5, you get 10 years out of him, and he's 35. Not everybody's going to play as long as Brady or Aaron Rodgers, but a 10-year run would be plenty good. And I don't, it's probably before your time, but Roger Staubach didn't take a snap for the Dallas Cowboys till he was 27.
Oh, wow.
And, he ended up playing 11 years and had who knows how many concussions and injuries and whatever. But, he was, a historically good player in that franchise history. So, I think too much is made of the age thing. And especially the quarterback position where the guy has to be, the face of the franchise and has to be mature on and off the field. And, if you've ever raised kids, firsthand that the frontal cortex of the brain doesn't fully develop until someone's 25. So to me, it's almost a good thing at a quarterback. So, and the injuries, the injury guys come back from knee injuries. And, from what I understand, all the medical stuff, he could play this coming season, or they could stash him on the pup. So,
I think based on what you've said in some of your analysis on Levis and comparing him with Hooker, I agree. And just looking at his statistics, and now I know Tennessee's roster the last couple of years has been really good, an SEC team, but 31 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 2021, a 68.2% completion percentage, way better than Anthony Richardson, by the way. 69.6% in 2022, 27 touchdowns to 2 picks. Threw for 3,000 yards both seasons, averaged over 9.5 yards per completion both seasons. So I agree.
Everything about Hooker is, the production is better than what Levis did the last 2 years. And they both played in the SEC. So they're, Hooker threw 5 touchdowns against Alabama, and they upset Alabama. I don't know how much more, big-time college you can be than that.
Right.
Now, he didn't do as well against Georgia, but he still
Right.
completed 70% in that game through one pick. And I mean, he didn't have a disastrous game. Levis had some disastrous games this past. That's just my take. But you know, everything about Levis totally fits what a Kevin O'Connell offense wants to do. And there's a lot of similarities. You know, his coach his junior year worked with O'Connell with the Rams, and you know, I get the potential fit. I wouldn't give up the farm to trade up for him. I just think the bust potential is just too high for him.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and I know I'm out on a limb on that.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I know you got a lot more here. Maybe what we'll have you do is maybe give a few other key ones. Probably not go through all of the ones you got here, but maybe a lineman, another edge rusher.
Yeah, so
another.
Like you'd mentioned Kalijah Cansey, guy you like.
Yeah.
You know, he's an interesting prospect, and I'm dying to know and understand, you know, how high a team like the Vikings has on him. You know, he's undersized. He kind of doesn't fit, you know, a 3-4 defense or, you know, the scheme. You know, he's really kind of an under tackle kind of thing. But O'Connell, you know, knows what a guy like Aaron Donald could do, and you carve out a role for that guy. So, you know, is he a fit for them or is he not a fit for them? I don't know. Talent-wise, he's right up there. So, you know, Zay Flowers would be a great addition for them, would be a great fit, you know, as that third receiver, plug him in, gets open, creates separation, makes big plays, would take a lot of pressure off Jefferson. Quentin Johnson is more of a developmental prospect, deep threat kind of a guy. I think Brian Branch was, you know, probably a better potential fit before they signed Byron Murphy. We've talked about Levis. I think Deontay Banks is a very talented cover corner, plug and play, ready to go. I like three of these edge guys: Keon White, Will McDonald, Felix, and Anudike Uzoma. You know, I could see Flores getting a lot out of those guys. Jalen Hyatt's a receiver that can really stretch the field, which would really open things up for Jefferson and KJ Osborne and those two tight ends underneath. Those are some guys that I think fit. I think Isaiah Foskey's an underrated edge guy. Would really fit the Flores scheme. We've got some linemen that, you know, I think one of the things that's on their radar is they want a guard that can step in when Ezra Cleveland's deal runs out after this season. And so these inside offensive linemen, I think, are appealing to them. This Cody Mock from North Dakota State, beautiful fit, you know.
Yeah.
Left guard guy has played tackle, kind of a local connection. I think he'd be great. Steve Avila's, you know, as a left guard, you know, physical, dominant, you know. And then Tittman and John Michael Schmitz, you know, if Bradbury isn't necessarily the long-term solution, although they're kind of paying him like he is. But those guys, you know, would merit consideration too. And then I put a check mark by Jack Campbell because I just think he is a really good player and underrated, and he's an Iowa guy. So
absolutely, you had to put him on there. You were contractually obligated to put him on there just for me, right?
Exactly. It was part of the Skol Purple podcast.
That's right. There's got to be at least one Iowa guy in the top 50. That's a rule now.
He's the one. He's just a really good player, and like him a lot. So.
And I see you got Lucas Van Ness as your number 11 overall.
That he reminds me a lot of Keith Millard. His sort of body type and initial quickness. He's a lot faster than Keith Millard ever was. I mean, Keith Millard never ran a 4.58 40.
That is just crazy, isn't it, for a defensive end? Crazy. I mean, we've seen some crazy ones like with Micah Parsons and stuff too, but
he's going to be a really good player, and his ability to play the edge and slide inside and convert speed to power, and there's no concerns about his passion for the game and his motor. He fits just about anybody's scheme, so I just think he's going to go pretty early.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, Kevin, and everyone watching and listening. Kevin Brown's 2023 NFL Draft Board Top 50. And Kevin has been doing, if you haven't been able to watch or haven't watched on our YouTube channel, the Skol Purple Podcast YouTube channel, Kevin has been gracious to give us some of his time and break down each one of these guys individually, and we've been posting them on our YouTube channel. Still plenty more to get to before the draft, so make sure to keep watching our YouTube channel. But some of these guys have already been broken down, like a Bijan Robinson and a Jalen Carter. They have both been on there, and then there's a few other ones as well, but still more of those coming, and Kevin's been doing a great job. Very informational little series on the NFL draft that we've been doing this year. So thank you again, Kevin, for being willing to do that and share your analysis with us here on the channel. So let's go ahead, Kevin, as we have our final segment of the show and have some fun. Now we've seen your mock draft, and now it's time to put it into action, I think, right? So let's go ahead and do that with a mock draft. Go ahead, and I'm gonna allow you. I'm guessing you still have your big board available to you right there.
Yeah, I have a little horizontal board I use, and then a printout. So I can kind of keep track here.
All right.
If you can keep track of who we pick.
Yes, I will keep track of that, and I will let you keep track of who is on your board, because that's what we're planning to do here, folks. We're planning on drafting accordingly from Kevin Brown's big board, obviously with only 50 on that board, but Kevin has done research on multiple players, so he knows a lot of these guys. But we're going to, at least for the first pick, maybe even 2, maybe 3, depending on how many people we get here, Kevin, because as I mentioned to you before the show, we are going to do this as a rebuild. This is a rebuild mock draft. So the Vikings are going to be picking in this mock draft. However, it is going to be based on a rebuild. And so that means we are going to be trading the likes of players like quarterback Kirk Cousins. We're also going to be trading the likes of Dalvin Cook. I think we could even, now maybe you'll stop me on this one a little bit, Kevin. I think we could even think about trading Ezra Cleveland, just because after next year his contract is up. I don't want to give him guard money. That's just a little tidbit I have on him. Harrison Smith.
I wouldn't trade Cleveland.
Okay.
Because we'll get a comp pick when we lose him.
That's true.
But I think Za'Darius.
And even though they just brought back, Harrison, going to trade him, and probably Jordan Hicks. So we are kind of doing a little bit of a Madden approach here, but this is just for fun. This is not an actual, obviously, simulation, because I think a lot of people would be having a heart attack right now if they saw all these moves going down
honestly,
in reality for the
we
Vikings.
just want to cultivate more draft picks.
Yep, exactly right. So that way we can get as many people, hopefully, that are on your big board as possible. So, well, let's go ahead and just get this out of the way. Let's trade Kirk Cousins and see what we can get for him. We're probably not going to get the first overall pick. The 39th from Carolina, they're saying we could get. But let's just play around here, Kevin. I love to play around. For those of you that are our audio listeners, you probably should have migrated to our YouTube channel by now. But you can see all of the moves I'm making. I'm just having fun here. We're just having fun, just to play with things a little bit. I'm a Madden GM, so I like to have fun like this. Obviously, all speculative, but fun. So if we start to add some of these other picks here, see what we have to give up here, Kevin. I have a feeling it's going to be more than what we want to give up for the first pick, right? So
yeah, maybe we could target something. I don't know.
maybe, or should we try and trade some of these other players away first before we trade away Kirk, and try and accumulate as much capital?
What we could get from San Francisco
for Cousins,
for Kirk,
yeah,
or Baltimore.
yeah.
Like,
Baltimore.
Say they're going to lose Lamar. What kind of capital can we net?
Yeah, let's see what the Ravens will give us 22 straight up for Cousins. It says trade will likely be accepted. Let's
ask for more.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I think if they're willing to do that, because obviously Lamar potentially leaving, then we need to throw on this. How about that's where I figured we'd go wrong. But maybe we could even get their entire draft here. Let's see what else we can get on this. Just to see how many picks we can actually get. We're gonna, let's see. Maybe we could do that. Let's try that. What do you think? Boy, if they accept that I feel like that's a huge win.
Yeah, maybe give them their 199 back.
Well, here's the deal. We get multiple trade offers. So let's see what this goes for. Okay, they said no. So maybe we give them that 199 back. I didn't like that either. Yeah, whatever reason the thing is not showing, but now I think we're down to 4 offers. So let's give them that back. How about the 4th? And we'll throw the 5th in. See if that goes. No. Okay, we'll just do the 4th. All right. So here's what happened for the audio listeners. We just traded Kirk Cousins for the number 22 overall pick, the first round pick, which is the pick right before the Vikings, by the way. The 86th pick, which is the Ravens' 3rd round pick. 124, 157, and 199, and a 4th rounder next year for Kirk Cousins. So got kind of a haul for Kirk Cousins there. Didn't have to give up any picks on our end. And now we can continue here, Kevin, to kind of deal some of these other players.
Okay, let's see if we can move
Dalvin here.
Dalvin, yeah.
Let's see. Did Buffalo actually pick anybody up for a running back? Because they lost what's his name?
Singletary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say maybe Atlanta, maybe Denver.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Atlanta. And Atlanta, let's see if they'll give us 44. Nope, they won't give us 44. Really don't want to give us 75. How about 110, 113? Fourth rounder next year, and how about a fifth? No, they won't do the fifth. But how about that? Do you think that looks okay, or
Sure.
would you try and get more out of that?
No, that's good.
All right, so we're asking Atlanta for the 110, 113, and 2024 fourth round pick, and they said no. So we'll probably take that fourth round pick off. Maybe we'll add 159. It seems like next year they're not really willing to give up picks, but this year they are. Let's see if they go for that. No. Okay, so they went with it for the 110, 113, and 159 on Dalvin. So you have that. Now we're going to go ahead and do another trade. We're going to keep Cleveland as per the wishes of Kevin. And we are going to trade Harrison Smith now. I know he just restructured, but for the sake of the exercise, we're rebuilding this thing. Who do you think would be a good fit for Harrison Smith, Kevin?
Oh, let's see. How about
What do you think about Jacksonville?
I was going to say, how about the Bengals? They lost.
Oh, they lost Bates. Who did Bates sign with?
I don't remember, but Atlanta.
I'll let you. Oh, yeah, Atlanta. That's right. All right, so we're going to go to Cincinnati here. See what they'll give us for Harrison Smith. They will likely give us their 92 pick, which is their third rounder. See if they give us anything else on there. Nope. Let's see if they just give us the 92 and the 131 we're asking for. Whoops. I don't know what I did there. Let's go. I must have hit the wrong one. So Harrison Smith to the Bengals. Where are we? There we go. So to the Bengals for the 92 and 131 offer trade. And they accepted it. Okay. So that is... What's that? Yeah, that's right. It's a little easier than what they probably have to deal with in real life, I suppose.
Yeah. So let's see. If we can get up to pick 3.
Pick 3. Let's see if we can trade before that. Let's trade Jordan Hicks just to see if there's anything we can do there. Any team you think would be a good fit for him? His old team, the Cardinals, maybe?
Maybe. It doesn't seem realistic that anybody would give anything for him, but
wow. Jordan Hicks for a third-round pick, say the Cardinals, which is crazy. I agree, but
that's insane.
They did it. They did it. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should keep keep going. Well, let's do what you wanted to do here, Kevin. Let's try and move up to at least the number 3 spot. Maybe we can even slide up to number 2. I doubt it. Number 3 is probably the best idea. So here we go to the Cardinals. Maybe we'll give them that pick back. So let's see. Let's see here. So if we give them 23 and 22, not interested in that. But they would be if we throw... So basically we got to give them 3 first-round picks, it looks like. Or multiple second-rounders, which we could do, I guess. But
How about do 22, 66, and next year's one?
66 and next year's one.
That doesn't
Likely
register.
won't be accepted. If you add the second, it's up to a 55% chance. You want to give that a shot?
Maybe do like 87 and
Yeah.
And then a 4. Yeah, like try that.
So we're going to try and get rid of 22, 66, 87, 119, 131, and 2024 first round pick. 49% chance to be accepted, and they didn't do it. All right, so now maybe we can add on a couple of back end picks. Get it up to 54%. Let's give that a try here, Kevin. And there it is. There it is. We have the third overall pick now. So who knows what quarterback we're even going to be able to get, but we are in the position to take at least the third best overall quarterback. And who knows, Kevin, we could get trade offers to trade back, and we could reaccumulate some of the picks we just traded.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I think we're good to resume the draft and see what happens here. So the first pick from the Panthers is C.J. Stroud, and the second pick, I'm going to guess Bryce Young. No, Anthony Richardson. So now if you're the Vikings here, you don't have a quarterback, or you run into the podium for Bryce Young.
I sure am.
All right. I think so too. I agree. I really like Bryce Young.
This worked out splendidly.
Yeah, no kidding. Bryce Young to the Vikings at the third overall pick. And now we wait until 23 and let the board come to us. Obviously, lots of good players coming off the board, but guess who's still here? My guy, Kalijah Cansey, still here. Plus, we have Deonte Banks, the corner from Maryland, Brian Bresee from Clemson, interior defensive lineman. Jordan Addison still there, Michael Mayer, the tight end, Josh Downs, wide receiver, all off the board. Bijan Robinson went to the Lions. That's kind of a unfortunate thing for the Vikings.
Doesn't
Jordan
Addison?
You want Jordan Addison here?
I would.
I don't know where did the Ohio State? Oh, Jackson Smith Najigba went to the Texans at 12. That's where he went. Okay. Yeah. So I was thinking, where is he? But he went earlier. So I would say it's between three players. You mentioned Jordan Addison. I love Kalijah Cansey. Deonte Banks would be another one I would think about here. But as we've mentioned already, Kevin, the depth in the cornerback class and the picks that we accumulated gives us a chance to go get a corner later on. So Jordan Addison, according to your big board,
I would take Addison.
Okay. All right, Jordan Addison at the 23rd pick, and the Vikings offense is now ready to roll. And now we have to wait until the third round to come back up. And we'll have picks 86, 92 in the third round. We could make the decision to trade up here, but we're already at the pick. I think it was probably okay that it worked out this way. Garrett Williams, the corner from Syracuse, is here. Carl Brooks, the edge rusher. Trevius Hodges Tomlinson, the slot corner from TCU, Kevin. Michael Wilson from Stanford, the wide receiver. We just took a wide receiver. Any of these guys sticking out? We took our quarterback. Tanner McKee would not be a fit here.
Well, the Garrett Williams I like.
And then you have Dorian Williams, a little early maybe to take him, but linebacker if you want to go linebacker. Don't really need to go running back. I mean, we could because we did trade Dalvin, right? So, well, actually, did we even trade Za'Darius? I don't even know if we traded Za'Darius. Or maybe we did, and I'm just scratching my head here. But
I don't think we did.
So what do you want to do here, Kevin? Do you want to go Garrett Williams?
I think Garrett Williams. He's the highest one on the PFF board.
Okay. All right, we'll go with that. Garrett Williams. And Dorian Williams, the linebacker, went. DeMarvion Overshone, he went. Another linebacker. Now you got Carl Brooks, the edge rusher, still here. Hodges Tomlinson's still here. Let's see. You got KJ Henry, Isaiah McGuire. Anybody that's Schoonmaker, the tight end from Michigan, don't really need a tight end. But he's there. Deuce Vaughn down there a little bit. Kobe Turner. Any of these guys sticking out for you, Kevin?
No.
Should we go with Brooks?
Brooks would be, he would be like the successor to Dean Lowry.
Okay.
Kind of a guy.
So Carl Brooks it is. We are going to stop things right here for a moment. I want to finish our rebuild here, Kevin. So I'm going to go ahead and say let's we were going to do this anyway and we just forgot to do it, but let's see if we can get something for Za'Darius Smith. I think you said the Ravens could be a fit. Should we try that?
We've kind of already fleeced them.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody else you think would be a good fit for him?
How about Miami?
Miami? We'll give it a shot. Let's see. They don't have many picks left, but
oh, okay.
Let's see what we can get out of them. So we're asking for 197, 238, a fifth and a sixth next year, and a fourth in 2025. Okay. It is. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. Yeah. They accepted it. So again, you could take this with a grain of salt with PFF's trade simulator, but here we go. We got more picks, a couple extra this year, and we're building our capital for future years as well. So that's got to be nice. And now we need to go here with our next pick and maybe talk about getting another edge guy. Or what else do we got? We got Moro Ojimo from Texas, the interior guy. Travius Hodges Tomlinson's still here, and we pick again in a couple of spots here, Kevin. What are you thinking?
Keep scrolling.
Let's see, we got Turner, we got Parker Washington, KJ Henry, Kobe Turner, Deuce Vaughn, Jaden Reed, another wide receiver, Ivan Pace Jr. What do you think of that one? We need to replace Jordan Hicks, don't we?
Yeah, because we traded him away, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. I'm good with that.
All right, Ivan Pace Jr. to the Vikings at 110. And now Travius Hodges Tomlinson's still there. Do you think about that to fill your slot corner for 4 years, Kevin?
Well, we drafted Williams from Syracuse too, didn't we?
We did. Is he more of a slot guy, or is he more?
I think he can be either.
He could be either. Okay.
J.L. Skinner would be a good replacement for Harrison Smith.
That's true. We do need to get a replacement for Harrison Smith. Any other guys on this that you kind of are intrigued by, or you think we should just go with Skinner?
I keep scrolling down a little bit. Let's see. Oh, Jair Brown from Penn State.
Yep, Jair Brown from Penn State, another safety.
Yep, I think I would take him over Skinner, actually.
Okay.
I think that.
All right. Jair Brown, safety from Penn State. That's where we're going with our Harrison Smith replacement. And what do you know? Here we are picking again at 124. We do have a trade offer. Saints are interested in trading. I think we've done. Do you think we've done enough trading, or should we give it a shot here? Let's give it a. Let's see what we can coop for next year.
There you
go. If there's anything we can coop out of this, recoup. Let's try this. A 5th rounder next year, and we're going back 22 spots.
Yep.
Nope, they don't want to do that. I'd say if you can't get a 5th rounder out of that, I'd say that's probably assigned to just pick, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So back on the board, still Ojomo's there. McGuire and Henry are still there. Turner, Vaughn. Maybe we could go Vaughn here. It may be a little early yet for him, but Ronnie Hickman, another safety. Keandre Coburn. Let's see. Any other guys? Zach Evans, another running back. It's maybe showed some promise. Chandler Zavala. How about that? He could still be there at 157 potentially.
Yeah, let's keep him in mind for that, because he could be an heir apparent to Cleveland, perhaps.
Yep. Jake
Yeah,
Hayner,
let's look back at the top. What do we have? Zach Evans would be pretty good value here.
Yeah. Do you like Fehoko?
KJ Henry might be good too.
What would you rather do? You go Evans or would you go Henry here?
I'm
leaning Henry.
Yeah, I think Henry, given we traded Za'Darius.
Mm-hmm. So KJ Henry, will bring him in. Now we go another round into the 5th round. We'll pick here again. We have 3 picks in a row here. Maybe we will do a trade here. Let's see who's on the board first. Is there anybody we're running to the podium here for? Savala? Should we run to the podium? We have 2 other picks we can trade potentially. So Savala, got him. All right, now we can trade at least one of these picks. The Texans are interested. Let's see, trade 158. They don't even want to. Oh boy. Let's see, 161. Let's see if we can, I guess, try and get some 7ths on here. But Cal, I don't know, man. This is getting into the weeds here. I mean, I know it's not.
Yeah.
I guess let's give it a shot. I mean, what more can we do here? I mean, it's a 4-pick difference, 2 7th round picks. That's not bad for the 5th round here. So that's what we did. Texans on the clock. They went with Keandre Coburn from Texas. We still got plenty of edge rushers on the board here, Kevin. Obviously, we've gone edge a few times. Bryce Wheaton, wide receiver.
Bryce Wheaton. Let's do that.
Do that?
A vertical receiver.
Right. Yeah. Add another receiver to the Bryce Young offense for the Minnesota Vikings. And now we're on the clock again. Yasir Abdullah is here. Vilami Fajoko's still there. Lots of guys here. Davis Allen's a tight end still on the board. Keaton Mitchell, running back from East Carolina. Anybody sticking out to you here, Kevin?
No,
Eric Gray.
Keep scrolling.
Jackson Kirkland.
Stetson
Bennett. Want to go get Stetson?
I would.
All right.
This stage,
we got Stetson Bennett. Now we got our backup. The Georgia quarterback backing up the Alabama quarterback. I'm sure the SEC would love that. 2 more picks after this, I believe. Nope, this is our second to last pick here. Aiden O'Connell's still on the board. We still got some offensive linemen in here. Some edge rushers. Clayton Tune from Houston, quarterback. Ronnie Bell, wide receiver from Michigan. We've gone wide receiver a couple of times, but I do like Ronnie Bell. Lee Cunningham. Cameron Brown, a corner from Ohio State. Jake Bobo. Oh, what a name.
Johnson.
We got Mo here. We got to do that, right? We got to go with Mo here, don't we?
I wouldn't, but
who were you saying?
DJ Johnson, edge guy.
DJ Johnson is up here.
Yeah.
DJ. Oh, was he down?
Yeah.
Right here. Okay, from Oregon.
Yeah.
You would go with him over Ibrahim, huh?
I would.
All right. I'm letting you win this one. The Minnesota Gopher fans aren't going to be happy, but we'll let them duke it out in the comments section here. All right, we got one more pick, Kevin. 238 in the 7th round. And Aiden O'Connell's still on the board. Cunningham, some of these quarterbacks. Oh, Ibrahim's still here. Should we pull the trigger now?
We'll give you that one, sure.
You got Hunter Lupke.
Hunter Lepke.
Lepke, yeah.
There you go.
I think did you mention him or somebody mentioned him as kind of a Kyle Juszczyk type of guy, potentially?
Yep. Yeah. No, I like him. He's a really talented receiver for a fullback.
We're getting Lepke, so CJ Ham's
short
days
yardage
may be
player.
numbered after all. And again, we passed on Ibrahim, but maybe we can go draft a UDFA. Maybe even Ibrahim will be a undrafted free agent, by the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not that he's not talented, right, Kevin? It's just with the running backs these days, it's becoming lesser and lesser of a value at this point, right?
Yeah. Wow. Okay,
we got an A for the trade that we did to get the 3rd overall pick. We gave up again the 3rd rounder, 66, 87, 4th rounder, 119, 131, round 6, 199, and 211, and a round 1 next year. To get the 3rd overall pick from the Cardinals. And Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud went off the board ahead of our pick, and we took the heir apparent to Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, Bryce Young. A total rebuild. This was a rebuild draft, so we traded away a bunch of people. And then we still had our 23rd overall pick, got Jordan Addison. The Bryce Young pick was an A- grade, B- for Jordan Addison. We did trade away Jordan Hicks back to the Cardinals for a 3rd round pick. We got a 3rd round pick out of Jordan Hicks. Who would have thought? Apparently the PFF simulator would have. Garrett Williams, the corner from Syracuse in the third round, an A+ grade on that pick. A- on Carl Brooks, the edge rusher. Harrison Smith, we traded for a third rounder and a fourth rounder this year. And we used one of those picks on Carl Brooks, as I mentioned. We used another pick on Ivan Pace Jr. to replace Jordan Hicks, an A- on that draft pick. We traded Dalvin Cook for 2 fourths and a fifth this year. And we drafted with those picks Jair Brown, a safety to replace Harrison Smith from Penn State. That was a C on that pick. But Kevin's smarter than the PFF simulator, I think, on that one. I think we're going to give that one to you, Kevin.
They probably would have given us a better grade for JL Skinner.
Probably, yeah. Theirs looked like it had him a little higher. KJ Henry, though, where we got him at 124, they gave us an A on that. B- for Chandler Zavala, the guard from NC State in the fifth round. Also, Bryce Ford Wheaton, a B-, pick 159. Stetson Bennett, we got a D+ in the fifth round. Our backup for a while for Bryce Young, though. B on our trade with the Texans. We traded them pick 158, and we traded back 4 spots and got 2 seventh-round picks in return for next year. So recouped some picks for next year. We also traded Zadarius Smith for a 4th-round pick and a 7th. So a 4th-round pick next year, a 5th-rounder this year, and a 4th-rounder in 2025, a 6th-rounder and 5th-rounder in 2024, and a 6th and a 7th in this year's draft, which we took DJ Johnson, the edge rusher from Oregon, to replace him. D+ was their grade on that one. And then Hunter Lepke, as you said, the fullback from NDSU, North Dakota State, C+ with the 7th round pick, 238. And an overall draft grade of an A. Kevin, we did it. We've rebuilt the Minnesota Vikings, and now we're going to go undefeated, Super Bowl bound. There's no doubt, right?
Well, it'd be a pretty harsh turn of the page, that's for sure.
Yeah. Again, this is just a fun thing. We don't think this is going to happen, but it's just fun to kind of play with this thing. It's kind of like playing Madden in a way, but I think maybe this is a little more realistic. But I don't know. It's fun. It's fun to do. So
yeah.
But well, that is going to do it. We'll make sure to share our image here with the YouTube audience on our YouTube page and social media, just to put out the controversy and hopefully strike some interest in what we've tried to do here in rebuilding this Vikings team. But yeah, Kevin, it was fun to have you on to help through the drafting process. I know we probably wouldn't have gone this drastic if we were doing it from the ideas of Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, but it's fun to play with it like that. So.
Yeah, and gives you a feel for where players might go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks, Kevin, for joining us, and thank you, everybody, for listening and watching on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe, and ring the bell for up-to-date content. We also are available on Apple and Spotify now, so you can listen to the show via Apple or Spotify as well. And we're proud to be a part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. Thanks again for joining the Skol Purple Podcast this week. We'll have more content for you down the road, so keep on coming back to the Skol Purple Podcast YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, Kevin, again for your content and your draft board. And we'll look forward to hopefully getting you on a few more times here before the draft.
Sounds good.
All right, that's going to do it for the show. And as always, Skol.
Skol.